I want you to picture a moment that doesn't get talked about very much. You open your banking app after getting a raise, or maybe after switching to a better paying job. The number is higher than it used to be. Objectively, things are better now. You should feel relieved. And for a moment, you do. But then something strange happens. That relief doesn't last. You still hesitate before spending. You still feel a knot in your chest when bills come due. You still feel like one wrong move could throw everything off. And at some point, usually late at night, a quiet thought slips in. If I'm making more money now, why do I still feel financially stressed? That question catches a lot of people off guard because it doesn't match the story we were told. And if you've ever felt that disconnect, I want you to know something right away. There's nothing wrong with you. Most of us are raised with a very simple belief about money. It's almost universal. More money means less stress. It sounds logical. When money is tight, life feels heavy. So it makes sense to assume that once income goes up, the weight should come off. And sometimes, especially at lower income levels, it does. Having enough to cover basics matters a lot. But here's the part that almost never gets explained. Financial stress doesn't disappear just because income increases. Because financial stress isn't only about how much you earn. It's about how safe your life feels when something goes wrong. And those two things are not the same. When people feel confused or even ashamed that earning more didn't fix their anxiety, they often turn that frustration inward. They assume they're ungrateful, or bad with money, or incapable of feeling satisfied. But in reality, they're responding to a system that changed without becoming more stable. And that distinction matters more than most people realize. Let's slow this down and look at what actually happens when income increases. When you earn more money, your financial life doesn't simply get bigger, it gets more complex. You don't just earn more, you usually take on more. Higher rent, a better apartment, slightly nicer groceries, more convenience, more subscriptions, more expectations about what your life should look like now. None of this feels irresponsible, it feels reasonable, earned even. But quietly, something important often disappears. Margin. Margin is the space between what you earn and what you absolutely need to survive. It's the buffer that lets your body relax. And your nervous system cares far more about margin than it does about income. If your income goes up but your margin stays tight, your stress doesn't go away. It just changes tone. It becomes more subtle, more constant, less dramatic, but harder to shake. There's also a psychological shift that happens when you earn more. Money stops being just a tool. It starts feeling like a responsibility. You start thinking about whether you're using it correctly, whether you're saving enough, whether you're investing the right way, whether you're wasting an opportunity other people would handle better. That pressure didn't exist in the same way before. When money was scarce, the goal was simple. Get through the month, avoid disaster. But when income improves, the goal becomes optimization. And optimization is exhausting. There's always a better move you could be making, a smarter choice, a more disciplined version of yourself you feel like you should be living up to. So even though your situation improves, your mind doesn't settle. It stays busy. Then there's comparison. Higher income often changes your reference points. New coworkers, new social circles. People who earn more than you suddenly feel closer than people who earn less. And comparison doesn't care how far you've come. It only cares about who's ahead. So instead of feeling proud, you feel behind in a new way. But beneath all of this, there's an even deeper layer that most people never connect to money at all. Our relationship with money forms long before we earn it. If you grew up in a home where money caused stress, tension, or instability, your body learned an association early. Money equals danger. Money equals uncertainty. Money equals things falling apart. That lesson doesn't disappear just because your paycheck gets bigger. It shows up as hypervigilance, as constantly checking balances, as feeling like security is temporary, as never fully trusting that things will be okay. Two people can earn the same amount and experience completely different levels of financial stress, not because of math, but because of history. And no raise automatically rewires that. This is where a lot of people start blaming themselves. They think, other people would feel fine in my position. Why don't I? But the truth is, money doesn't just live in spreadsheets. It lives in your nervous system, and systems don't change overnight. The real shift happens when you stop expecting income to create peace. Money is powerful. It can solve real problems. It can buy time, comfort, and options. But it cannot regulate your sense of safety by itself. Financial calm doesn't come from how much you earn. It comes from how predictable your life feels. That realization changes the way you look at money. Instead of chasing a future income level where stress is supposed to disappear, you start paying attention to structure, stability, resilience. You start asking different questions. Not how do I make more, but how fragile does my life feel right now? That question changes decisions in subtle but important ways. Because peace doesn't come from abundance. It comes from knowing that a bad month won't undo you, that an unexpected expense won't send you into panic, that your life isn't balanced on constant tension. And that kind of security is built slowly, quietly, through consistency, not dramatic income jumps. So what does this look like in real life without turning it into another self-improvement project? It starts with noticing where your stress actually comes from. Not in a vague sense, but in your day-to-day experience. Is it unpredictability? Is it the lack of a buffer? Is it high fixed costs that leave you no room to breathe? Is it guilt around spending? Is it pressure to maintain a lifestyle that looks successful but doesn't feel safe? Those answers matter more than your salary. One of the most calming things you can do with money is reduce the number of decisions you're forced to make under stress. Fewer moving parts, fewer surprises, more clarity about what's already handled. And that doesn't require earning more. It requires designing your life so it's less fragile. This is where people often realize something uncomfortable but freeing. They don't actually need dramatically more money to feel better. They need fewer points of failure. When people hear that financial stress is more about fragility than income, there's often a moment of quiet resistance. Because fragility sounds vague. Income feels concrete, but fragility shows up in very specific ways. It's the feeling that if your car breaks down, everything else starts wobbling. It's the tension you feel when your rent goes up and you realize there's nowhere for that extra cost to come from. It's the constant background math running in your head, even on days when nothing bad is actually happening. One of the most grounding things you can do is start building slack into your life, not excess, slack. Slack is what lets you absorb reality without panic. That might look like slowly lowering fixed expenses so fewer things demand your paycheck every month. It might look like building a small buffer so emergencies feel annoying instead of terrifying. It might look like choosing stability over optimization even when optimization sounds smarter on paper. What matters is not perfection, it's how your body feels when something unexpected happens. Another piece that often gets overlooked is how much emotional energy money decisions consume. If every purchase feels like a moral test, stress never really leaves. You might earn more, but you're still carrying guilt, second-guessing, and mental exhaustion around spending. A calmer relationship with money often comes from clarity, knowing what's already taken care of, knowing what you've decided ahead of time, knowing that not every decision needs to be relitigated in your head. This is why simple systems matter more than clever strategies, not systems that promise maximum returns, systems that reduce thinking. Because the goal isn't to win at money. The goal is to stop money from constantly demanding your attention. There's also something important to say about pace. A lot of people assume that if they don't feel calm yet, they must not be doing enough. So they push harder, work more, optimize more, chase faster progress. But stress doesn't respond well to pressure, it responds to consistency. A financial life that feels calm is usually the result of many small, boring decisions repeated over time. Decisions that don't look impressive from the outside. Decisions that don't feel dramatic, but they add up to something powerful. Predictability. And predictability is what your nervous system has been asking for all along. There's another reason earning more doesn't always reduce stress, and it's more personal than most people expect. For a lot of adults, income becomes tied to identity. Not consciously, subtly. Your job title, your salary, your perceived trajectory, they start to feel like evidence that you're doing life correctly or incorrectly. So when income increases, it doesn't just bring relief, it brings pressure to maintain that identity. You start worrying about slipping backward, about losing momentum, about what it would mean if this level of income didn't last. And that fear can be heavier than the stress you felt before, because now there's something to lose. This is why people sometimes feel more anxious after financial improvement than before it. When you had less, the expectation was survival. When you have more, the expectation becomes growth. And growth doesn't feel optional, it feels like a responsibility. Recognizing this is important because it lets you separate who you are from what you earn. Money is a tool, a useful one. But when it becomes a measure of worth, stress becomes inevitable. Calm comes from knowing that your value isn't recalculated every month based on your bank balance. The real shift happens quietly. It's the moment you realize that financial peace isn't something you arrive at once and then keep forever. It's something you maintain. Just like physical health or mental health, there will always be moments of uncertainty, unexpected expenses, periods where things feel tighter. That doesn't mean you're failing, it means you're human. What changes is how intense those moments feel. When your financial life has structure, when you have buffers, when your lifestyle isn't stretched to its limit, stress loses its grip faster. It doesn't spiral, it passes. And that's what most people are actually looking for, not a life with no stress. A life where stress doesn't control them. If you're earning more than you used to and still feel financially uneasy, that doesn't mean you miss something. It means you're noticing something important. You're noticing that money alone doesn't create safety. Systems do, boundaries do, self-trust does. Progress in this area is rarely loud. It doesn't come with big announcements or dramatic turning points. It comes from quiet alignment, from building a life that can absorb reality without constant tension. And that kind of progress is slow, sometimes frustrating, often invisible, but it's real. If you're moving in that direction, even imperfectly, you're doing better than you think, and that matters more than any number ever could.